Welcome to Chattel Fixtures PEI Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, David Cyrus MacDonald. On this episode, we talk with Greg MacDougall of Provincial Realty. We discuss Hurricane Fiona, interest rates, and dive into the world of new housing subdivisions, discussing the Hidden Valley subdivision in Charlottetown. We get a chance to share some stories that just felt so wholesome and positive and brought me back to my childhood here on PEI. It really left me feeling good, as well as grateful to have the chance to learn from someone who brings so much experience. If you want to be more informed about PEI real estate, this podcast is for you. If you want to be a guest, sponsor of the show, or get in touch with me for any reason, visit chattelfixtures.com. That's CHATTEL fixtures.com. Let's get started. I'll start with a little introduction for you here, sure. Greg. Greg MacDougall is the broker and co-owner of Provincial Realty. In addition to his focus on your own work of mainly commercial and industrial developments, you support Provincial Realty's 28 team members. Lives in your hometown of Stratford with your wife Lydia and sons Max and Aiden, and with another one on the way. So today I wanted to talk to Greg about how recent changes in the real estate market are affecting buying and selling decisions, the impacts of Hurricane Fiona, interest rates, and how you are thinking about navigating this time on PEI. Yeah, so thanks. Welcome, Greg.
Thank you, David. It's great to be here.
Yeah. So I thought it'd be kind of, might as well start off with the craziness that happened very recently. I'm not sure when this is going to be published, but filming it now, we're just coming out of the mayhem of Hurricane Fiona. How did you and your family fare out with that?
We didn't do too bad. We lost some vinyl siding off both sides of our house. Our neighborhood is a pretty new neighborhood, so there's not a lot of mature trees. So we fared out pretty good with respect to that, but certainly devastating for a lot of homeowners, all across the island, for sure.
Yeah. Did you have many people who were like current or recent clients who had
there's been a decent amount of transactions that occurred through our office that, some nice large trees were in the backyard and really made the oasis of the backyard. And hurricane, took them down, due to close in a couple weeks. Now, it doesn't have as much privacy. There's the cleanup. Who's responsible for the cleanup? Is it, the vendor, the seller, or is it left to the purchaser to decide? And most commonly, it would be the person that owned the property when the hurricane happened that they take the ownership in terms of the cost and expense of taking the trees away. And
so are you having to negotiate like holdbacks or anything? Or
there's been a couple unique situations. We've everybody kind of worked together. No one's really planned the hurricane, and it's nobody's fault the hurricane came. So it's one of those things where it's in front of us, let's deal with it. And for the most part, everyone's been very cooperative in terms of
did you have any deals that were just impossible to finish because the house was like really damaged really badly?
There was a couple that were like, some, nice apple trees and whatnot. And it was really part of the overall property. And unfortunately, the apple trees never made it through Hurricane Fiona. And so the apple trees are no more. But for the most part, there hasn't been any like, I'm not going to buy the property anymore because that apple tree's missing or anything like that.
Oh, okay. So, that's good. Yeah. One of the things that was happening around Fiona that was, it was the biggest storm I had seen. I think it was
100%. Yeah. Biggest storm I've seen as well.
Yeah. And so, there was that kind of fear of like, okay, what does this mean now? Having this hurricane blow in. Yeah. And so I think there's kind of, a really cool thing that has happened as a result of that. Everybody was kind of clearly like, okay, this is a big deal.
Yes.
All these other things that we're worried about on PEI right now, let's just take a step back and get out the chainsaws and help our neighbors. I saw on your Facebook that you and some buddies were out doing some cutting.
So we have a little cottage. The whole laneway just got plugged full of trees. It was just a cottage lane. And anyways, I threw a message out to some close friends of mine, and I said, we'd have barbecue and a couple beers and whatnot after the chainsawing. Sure enough, I got I think there was 8 of us. 4 guys on chainsaws and 4 other guys that were just throwing the debris off to the side of the road. There's a few neighbors on that lane in particular that are year round that they were coming up thanking us immensely.
Nice.
Anyway, it was good to get out. I've operated a chainsaw a few times. I wouldn't consider myself an expert by any means, but I enjoy working outside. It was good.
Yeah, I kind of had a sort of similar experience, although I had never operated a chainsaw ever in my entire life. So when I was out there, I just it was this new toy, and I watched a bunch of safety videos to make sure I was being pretty careful. But I gotta say, it was kind of satisfying being out there. Now I think if I was doing if I were an arborist or something, and I was that was an ongoing thing in my life, maybe the novelty would wear off. But for me, I felt like a kid out there. I was out of me and a couple of my siblings went out to my parents' place, and then we went out to my brother's place. And then they all came out here and kind of helped each other out. And there was this coming together in the community that was really nice to see, like that resilience. And I kind of think that if we were in a situation where people weren't feeling so up for helping each other out, this whole thing could have been much more protracted.
Brought a lot of people together for sure.
Yeah. And I kind of feel like, okay, if you're thinking about living on PEI, there's hurricanes, that sounds scary, but also really strong community. That sounds nice. So they kind of counterbalance each other a little bit.
Big time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good news stories that came out of the hurricane with people helping people, neighbors helping neighbors, and, young helping elderly. So it was really nice.
Yeah. Was it, you told me about a friend of yours that was going around with a trailer?
A friend of mine, James Walsh. James grew up on a farm in Watervale. Him and another friend of mine, Rob Salter, were going around, and they didn't have a trailer to haul the debris away. So James got creative, and he's using his father's manure spreader. So they're literally driving around Brighton, Charlottetown, Stratford, Cornwall area with a manure spreader hauling waste debris from trees away. So it's getting a lot of laughs amongst the neighborhoods they travel through. It's just good. It brings a smile to people's faces.
Was there someone who wanted their family to see it or something?
So there was
an attraction.
There was someone on, I believe it was Upper Prince Street. James was telling me that there was an elderly lady in the house that really, whether she grew up on a farm or her husband grew up on a farm, I'm not sure exactly the story, but that they used to use the manure spreader. They worked the farm, in the years previous. And anyway, one of the sons came up to James and said, "Can you take a slow drive by my mom's house? She's all excited to see the manure spreader driving around." And so James took a slow drive by, and pretty sure it made the ladies' day.
Oh man. Oh, that sounds like a good little moment.
Yeah.
Did you ever grow up? So did you grow up in Stratford?
I grew up in Stratford. Yes. Yeah. I grew up near the Blue Church, the Lady of Assumption Church.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Moved into town throughout my university time, and then back to Stratford there shortly after.
Oh, okay.
So I'm Stratford through and through.
Stratford through and through. Nice. Yeah. I'm picturing there was those little drive-bys. I grew up on the Montague River.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I guess technically Brudenell, which would be in Three Rivers now.
Yeah.
And so we had a lot of family who was really into boating, and there was also a good sort of quirky sense of humor going on around there.
Okay.
And there was this boat called the Honeybee. It was kind of basically a raft.
Okay.
With a little shack on it.
Yes.
With a little outboard motor on it.
Okay.
And that little thing, every once in a while, they'd take that out for a rip. And it would just be a drive-by. Okay. And you'd see them out there, and you'd all be excited. People would see the Honeybee, we had kids would be running over to the water, blowing horns and stuff. Literally blowing horns, and we might take out towels. And picturing that with this manure trailer just going by for a nice slow drive-by.
Yeah.
Oh man. Funny. Oh, that's a way to live, eh?
Yeah.
That's a funny thing. You can forget you're all busy with your kind of regular work life, and you forget the humor and enjoyment potential of a manure spreader with random brush kind of downtown Brighton. That's pretty good. Yeah. Well, I guess there's that sort of kind of when you're thinking about like real estate in general, which is the focus of this podcast, there's like always that kind of, there's like that logical and emotional side going through. So maybe a bit of a shift in a way, but like right now there's been so much change, so many changes happening in such a short period of time. I mean, I don't even need to mention kind of the complexity of the last couple of years, but currently right now it seems one of the biggest changes is in interest rates, and then that affecting buying and selling decisions.
That's right. Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess just broadly, like, are you seeing with your work and kind of the many realtors, team members, real estate advisors that you have working with you, and all the many people that they would be working with, like, is this what people are talking about around the offices? Is this affecting people? Like,
certainly, anytime the Bank of Canada and our chartered banks adjust the interest rate, they increase it does have a rippling effect on the number of transactions that do occur here locally. It also impacts the sales dollar figure. So let's say, when the interest rate was 2.5%, someone was qualified for, let's say, 500,000. That goes up to 3%, 4%. Now it's hitting, high fives. That 500,000 may have fallen. Now you're pre-qualified for 400,000, right? So then it puts more pressure on the $300,000-$400,000 homes, and more buyers buying them. So certainly, that can create a lot of demand, and then to contradict that, slightly lower demand for the higher end homes, unless it's people are transferring from other parts of Canada, which we've seen in Ontario. A lot of people from Ontario, finally discovered the wonderful island that we have here, and the real estate to them may look like great value even at a high price. There's still a lot of demand for our homes and our island, for sure. We have a lot of beautiful areas of the island. So, but yeah, certainly interest rate does.
So it's affecting especially from your perspective, it seems to be affecting the higher end houses,
the higher end
more
homes.
So than
it all depends on the buyer as well. If they are financing it at your traditional, what you would finance a house, it would affect that. If they cashed out of a hot market and they're coming in with, and they're paying 50% down with money that they made off their Ontario home, for instance, may not matter as much because they're only financing 50% of the home or whatnot. So
you're finding people waiting to decide too, like waiting for the effects of interest rates.
There's some people that are I would consider on the sidelines of how is it going to shake out? Is it going to adjust housing prices here locally on PEI? Is the market going to crash? Everyone talks about, but for the most part, I don't think our market will crash. I think, we'll have some normalization with our market. I don't believe it was sustainable, the past 3-4 years of like the 30% increases and stuff. I really don't think that's sustainable long term.
Yeah, long term,
particularly for the local buyer and even the first time home buyer. It's just like, what we're seeing now is rural revitalization in smaller communities, which is great. To have, the rural areas actually seeing their populations increasing. And that's due to the fact that they may be getting priced out of, the bigger city center, and they're going, 25 minutes, 30 minutes from town. And even people relocating from Ontario, for instance, like if their average commute per day was 45 minutes, well, if they, and they're moving to PEI, well, they may consider to live in Summerside if they work in Charlottetown or vice versa. So 45 minutes to people from outside the island is is not a long time. 10-minute commute to an islander is a long time. So
we think very differently about those things. And you can always usually kind of find a way quickly to where you're going, which is nice, which is really nice. What about, so this, you're talking about people coming down from Ontario. Has that kind of been, it appears to me that trend has kind of grown over the last few years.
Certainly, with when COVID, when the pandemic hit, the whole working remotely and working online certainly became a big buzz. And for most companies, it was optional. You could do it. So if I'm in a condo in downtown Toronto working on my laptop, or I'm on a waterfront property in Prince Edward Island, pending we have a great internet connection, it doesn't matter where you are. So certainly that was a big driving force to the whole middle of Canada moving east.
And is that still happening now?
It is not as much as we've experienced over the last 12 to 24 months, but there is still people. Even driving through neighborhoods and you see the sold sign, and you see people moving in. It's just looking at their license plates for instance.
Sure.
You can often tell where people are coming from, and
well, I've definitely met a lot of people who friends of mine and stuff who just used to live in Ontario and live here.
For sure. And it was a great excuse to move back home. A lot of them were born in Prince Edward Island and just thought, there was better opportunities for them elsewhere. And then they realized, PEI economy has been, accelerated over the past number of years. And there's a ton of opportunities here in PEI for growth. So jumping on the
just to piggyback on what you just said there, what do you think is happening here in the local economy, not just as a result of that, but just generally, I'm picturing myself if I lived in Southern Ontario, massive population. So in terms of jobs, often that means there's a great variety of jobs. So you're coming down here and maybe you're working remotely, but you want to be able to have the option of kind of moving around in your career. Are you seeing what's your perspective on job opportunities in Charlottetown and PEI?
Yeah. I think the public sector, government has been hiring. Government needs good people. Government has been on a big hiring spree. The private sector and business, local businesses are the same. There's a huge demand for trades. Even more particularly now after the hurricane, with repairs to roofs and siding and everything else. But even before Fiona, there's been a huge demand for new home construction, renovations, and there's huge opportunities for companies to start up and grow their businesses here on PEI. And those big contracting firms are always looking to hire good qualified people. And wages are increased as a reflect of that, trying to recruit new team members.
Yeah. So with that, and all the, we in Charlottetown, there was a while there, and I think it's still the case that there was a supply constraint. We were very much supply constrained in terms of housing. What are you thinking in terms of new building and that kind of stuff happening right now? Are we still supply constrained in terms of places for people to live in general, not just in terms of places to buy and sell?
Yeah, we certainly are. It is getting better. There's some new developments. East Royalty, as everybody has seen in the last 3-4 years, has really developed. There's another neighborhood in more western, Hidden Valley development, which is primarily focused on duplexes, so two duplex buildings. There's a number of lots in there. So
I saw a picture on your Facebook page on your personal profile. I hope you don't mind me saying this publicly. But it was of these empty green lots with fresh blacktop, kind of going around, all the fresh asphalt going around there. So this is a brand new subdivision. It's
all R2, which is duplex lots. So within the Charlottetown, there's many different zoning, but this gives people the ability to buy the lot, build a duplex. You could sell half of it, which is called semi-detached homes. So you'd literally own half of the duplex. So it opens the door to, the first-time home buyer, or the baby boomer who could be, downsizing, that they don't need their big split entry house. They're, slab on grade, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, wheelchair accessible, half a duplex. It really gives them a good opportunity and a good product onto the market. So with, props to the developers investing in the infrastructure. It's not cheap to develop a neighborhood. You have to put in your water and sewer. You pave the whole development. You got to get surveyed. You got to get permits. There's a big process to go through. But once that's all done and people are able to, buy the lots and build the duplexes, it's very important to taking the pressure off of our housing crisis for sure.
Right. So whether it be in this particular case, just or more in general with new subdivisions, because I have this is new territory. New
Sure.
subdivisions, totally new territory for me. So I'm just as you are explaining it, I'm picturing okay, this grid of like water and sewer going underground and then coming in with backhoes and putting that all in and all the approvals and permitting and all that stuff coming together and the many layers of that. So for these developers who are putting this together, I mean, this seems like a massive job, but also with them having done that, would developers, like, how common is it for developers to just build the actual properties that are going or buildings that are going on these properties?
There's a bit of both. There's one development over Stratford where the developer primarily focuses on build, sell. They don't sell the individual lots. They want to handle the whole process from start to end, which is, good for them.
But probably pretty capital intensive and need a lot of experience.
And typically slower to develop the land versus what you see in Hidden Valley. The whole neighborhood, the whole development is getting developed. They're selling the lots off to anybody who wants to buy them, whether they're a contracting company or an individual looking for an investment opportunity for future resale.
So a place like that, do you picture both coming into that market?
For sure. There'd be the local developer, the local residential builder that wants to build a couple duplexes and, sell the semi-detached to try and, gain some opportunity there. There's also the buyer that's looking at like, there's not many R2 lots in Charlottetown. 129,000 plus HST is the lot, and that comes fully serviced, obviously. There's good opportunity. Right. Those lots, I always say, invest in dirt. That's a good example.
Right.
There's.
Now that's interesting. Okay, so right now, as we're entering this different phase in the marketplace, like, maybe this is too specific a question to know the answer to, but like, how much do you think it would cost to put to build the actual? So it's 129,000, right, for those lots. And this particular, use this as a case study, basically. So you got that 129 grand for that, but then on top of that, building the duplex on top of that in today's market. Do you have like a guess or a range of how much people are expecting to pay on something like that?
So what we've been seeing I'll look at it that I know more versus the development of the duplex in terms of the resale value. You're seeing like a half of a duplex sell between 300 and 350.
Okay.
HST included kind of thing.
Okay.
So
all in,
paved driveway kind of thing. Like standard slab on grade, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, half a duplex. So
cool. That's pretty reasonable in today's market. Actually, that's a pretty good.
For sure. Depending,
you
can get higher end ones that have finished basements and whatnot. That would be $100,000 or $150,000 more than that. But it all depends. That would be an entry level starting point.
Okay, so you're in the kind of 350 to maybe 500 at the upper end. The range. Okay. And then, and that would be kind of like the finish of one side of it.
One side of it.
So someone's buying the lot for two of these things for 129.
Yes.
But they themselves are, well, I guess it's hard. Like, say they are hiring the contractors or the construction company to build
it
on it. Are they quoting specific prices for that work?
If you can find people to quote the prices, that's the biggest thing with the hurdle with the trades. Everyone's so busy that people are sticking to the people that support them before the big
thick and thin.
So if you were just to call up, you'd probably be looking at like 2 years out in order to secure a contractor to build.
So you need to be able to float the like, say, okay, sorry, one step at a time for this. So say if you're a regular person just thinking, maybe I want to buy one of these, and you don't have experience or not extensive experience in construction, you pay that 129,000. How hard is it to get a mortgage on that before building the next
it all
phase?
Depends on people's individual circumstances. Typically, banks don't love financing raw land. Banks love assets. So a house that if someone defaulted, they get
Is
the
it just a
asset.
bigger down payment for
So
it typically?
it would be a bigger down payment, or you could build it into like a construction financing. But it would all depend. I can't speak specifically.
Yeah, I know
to,
it's complicated. But I'm picturing just like your average person who's just thinking like, okay, what is the opportunity here?
The opportunity, like for the average person, I would say that, owns a house, would probably look at, if they bought their house 7 years ago or 8 years ago, they probably paid, let's call it 200. Well, that $200,000 house is probably worth 450 today.
Right.
In that short period of time, 7-8 years. So there could be an opportunity where they were to speak to their financial advisor or their chartered bank. I have $200,000 worth of equity in my house.
Mm-hmm.
Can I take out 120 or 130 or 140,000 out of that mortgage? So you essentially refinance the house. You get the 130,000. You buy the lot,
and then you have that equity in the lot too. So then when you're getting the loan for the construction side of it, you're not having to go out and get the capital for that.
Sure. Yeah, they would take security over the lot at that point because it would be free and clear. Now, keep in mind your mortgage on your primary residence would be increased. So
yeah, exactly. Your income would have to support that.
Your income would have to support that. Your mortgage payments would be slightly, would be a lot higher if you pull 150,000 out of your mortgage. So you just have to make sure all your checks and balances are done. And
I guess what I really want to know, and I don't know, this is probably it just seems like too complicated a thing to just guess, especially if the construction is 2 years out, like how much is it going to cost for this? Right. And that's, I guess that's part of why, say, if you were to go through this whole process and your goal was to sell each of these units for, say, 400,000 in 2 years from now, you got 800,000 total potential revenue. You got 129,000 plus HST for that lot. Like if you could have a good idea what that space is in between there, you could be like, oh geez, like maybe there is a couple $100,000 on top of that to be made, or $100,000 per unit or something. And this could be someone who maybe has a good income, a different job, and even this is a side thing they're doing to diversify their investment and that kind of thing. So like, like I it's like it would be, and like you're saying, it sounds like the challenge here is, okay, do we have enough good people who can reliably do this, who you can choose and who will give you a good quote and who will work with you as maybe a noob in that case to make this happen. And that also, whenever you see a challenge like that, is like, what an opportunity. It's like people are looking to hire people to do this. So if you are maybe in a market somewhere else where you're twiddling your thumbs looking for something to do and wanted and have experience in construction and that kind of thing, then that kind of emphasizes the need and the demand for people and the opportunity.
For sure. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Have you ever developed places yourself?
I haven't personally developed anything. I've looked at different opportunities and whatnot, but I haven't. I consider myself busy enough in the day to day that, and raising a couple kids and another, as you mentioned, on the way in February. I got to pick my. I got to make sure my work-life balance is on par, and I'm working on that every day. So
yeah, I've got 2 kids too, so I can relate to that.
Add another project, not at this time personally, but
interesting.
Certainly, we have lots of clients within our firm that are always kind of aggressively looking at new opportunities and new developments. So certainly, we always clients number one.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's yeah, that's a good point. I kind of had a foray into new development that I didn't end up actually doing, and just enough to kind of explore that. Everything I've done in terms of my own ownership in real estate has been, buying mainly with the intention of holding, but in some cases selling. But yeah, existing residential stuff, but on a pretty small scale, really. But it strikes me that this is when you get into that development phase, it's like this is when you really got to make sure you're dealing with the professionals and that you're doing things really well.
There's been a ton of uncertainty since COVID hit with, you know, the prices of raw materials, the lumber, the siding, the roof shingles, and then the labor associated with putting it all together as well. So lumber in the past number of months has kind of normalized and came down, but there is some, you know, raw materials that are still twice as much as they were pre-COVID kind of thing. And
Right.
that's, and supply chain issues with getting doors and windows, and, you know, you can't sell a house unless, you know, if it doesn't have any doors and windows kind of thing. So you got to make sure everything's teed up to come in on time, on budget, to put it all together.
And you
so
got to have your own, like, you know, security of like having, you know, you don't want to use every last cent on something like this and then need capital and not have access to it necessarily either.
Yeah. So it is a bit of a, you know, juggling act as well, but like anything, you know, you can make it happen, but it's just a matter of putting it all together and having some luck on the way.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. What about if you are currently right now thinking, when those people who are on the sidelines thinking about it, what are you saying to them right now who are not sure what's going to happen with changes in house prices right now?
Well, it all depends on each individual's situation. Do they need a house, or can they sit on the sidelines and continue to pay their rent until the right opportunity presents itself? So we look at it, and our team at Provincial Realty, we look at it a case-by-case basis. We don't try and just sell a house to sell a house. We want to make sure, as their real estate advisor, is doing the right thing for the client. So sometimes it is sitting on the sidelines until the right opportunity presents itself, and in other cases, you jump right in the deep end. We just relocated here. We're working. We don't want to live in an apartment building, or we don't want to live in a condo building. We want our own space for our kids to run or whatnot in the yard. We want to buy a house. We need to buy a house. Well, let's find a house and buy it.
Cool.
So it all depends on each individual's circumstances, for sure.
But, what would you say to say if you had someone who's coming out of university, just started a job, maybe doesn't have debt, and but they're thinking, okay, or maybe they do, but whatever. They're coming, they're a young person kind of thinking, I want to own eventually, but I'm not necessarily ready for it now. Like, how do you? This is kind of a broad question, but have you talked to people like that? What do you advise young people who are thinking, like, how do I position myself to be able to do this?
I would always, you know, we're their real estate advisors. They also have, you know, potentially financial advisors, or we'd introduce them to a partner of ours that can, you know, what can they realistically take on in terms of, you know, financing commitments and whatnot. But I always say is starting off, like, and I did it back 11, 12 years ago, is housing prices were a lot less than they were. But I just finished university, you know, like everybody, you had some university debt and whatnot. I purchased a property in Sherwood. It had in-law suite / rental unit. And that was an entranceway for me personally into the market. And from there, you know, I believe the rent was $900, everything included, which would be a great deal today. But, you know, that $900 I can throw right on the mortgage and on some of the expenses and make it sustainable. You know, so I was living in the upper half and renting out the lower half, vice versa. And that's so looking at any opportunities there's a, you know, great demand for rental accommodations here in Charlottetown surrounding areas. So, you know, being able to, whether it's a duplex or an in-law suite or whatnot, as long as you're conforming with the zoning, and the ability to rent, or if it's an in-law, you can maybe take in your brother, and your brother pays you $900, or your sister pays you $900 rent or whatnot, just to offset that mortgage payment or the expenses. So it makes that go much further. So
what about broad question, because I feel like we're nearing wrapping up here, but so for your young children now, when they get older, and become adults, what do you picture PEI and Charlottetown being like Like this is maybe, I don't know. Have you thought about this much? Like, what do you think? What do you think this community will be like at that time?
Sure.
And what kind of place, what kind of opportunity? Have you thought about that at all?
Yeah, I haven't really gave it a lot of thought, to be honest with you. But I look at it, rewind 10, 15 years where we were. Did we at that time think that Charlottetown and surrounding areas would be what it is today? I bet you we probably would have said no. Like the amount of new restaurants, the amount of new activities for people to do, the different cultural, awesome to have a lot newcomers, and it just it's great. Province PEI has came a long way. I think it will continue to go that way, and we need immigration to make sure that, the economy continues to go, and
people are making stuff and
people
doing
are
stuff.
making stuff and doing stuff. And that's just the new normal. And I think it's great to have these cultural differences as well. So
totally. We feel pretty privileged here in a lot of ways that things have kind of gone the way they have.
They are.
I remember that too, and it seems such a stark change from now. Like it wasn't that long ago. I mean, even like 2016, really. But it wasn't that long ago when there was a lot of fear about, okay, we have an aging population and who are leaving the workforce, and are we going to be able to do what we need to do, care for them? Like, like relative to now, a lot of the houses were starting to, not be well maintained. And,
that's right.
And then it's just like, you look at it now and it's so different from that in terms of the way we're looking at things. And I got to think certainly you'd think that immigration would be a part of that. People being like having mobility in their work and being able to move around to be able to get people in here that we need, or people, this be a launching point to go somewhere else if they need to. It's that's an interesting point. Yeah,
for sure.
Cool. Anything? Provincial Realty. Anything you want to say about or plug about that?
always take a good opportunity to plug our
why
company.
Not?
We're a locally owned, independent real estate firm. We have a lot of great teammates. I can't say our success has been built off our teammates. We've grown organically. And it's because of our team we are what we are today. And we're going to continue down that path in terms of great people within our firm and delivering the best real estate experience to our clients. So, we're going on year number 7.
The new office looks great, by the way.
It was. It's a bit of a renovating a 137-year-old building's been. It's been an experience, to say the least, from someone that doesn't have a lot of experience renovating heritage buildings. But no, it's been really great. It's been a great ride, and we're very pleased to have our flag right downtown Charlottetown. I get a little bit of grief from some of our teammates with no parking, but
I guess
we'll find it out.
You got that office in Montague too,
That's right.
Yeah,
we have our office in Montague that has a little bit more parking than our downtown Charlottetown office.
I bet.
No, it's been a good ride, and I'm very thankful for our incredible team.
Awesome. Sure. Well, wonderful. Thank you so much for coming over to my house and having this conversation, Greg.
Awesome. Thank you, David, for having me. Anytime.
Awesome. Okay.
All
thanks.
Right. Okay.
Thank you for listening to Chattel Fixtures PEI Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, David Cyrus MacDonald. If you want to reach out to me for any reason, please visit chattelfixtures.com to find my contact information, show notes, etc. We're currently looking for diverse and interesting guests. If you would like to have a conversation with me, or if there is anyone you would like to hear me speak with, or have an idea for the show, let me know. Get in touch through the website or tweet at me at Chattel Fixtures. We're currently seeking out relevant sponsors with solid reputations, serving customers, particularly in some way related to the PEI real estate market. If that sounds like you, get in touch with me if you want to support great, positive conversations about real estate happening right here in PEI. Visit chattelfixtures.com to learn more. Be sure to subscribe to Chattel Fixtures PEI Real Estate Podcast, and see you in the next episode.